And let me just share my screen. If you're joining us online, then put in a hello. Let us know where you're joining us from. I always love hearing that. And yeah, today we have a very special guest, Alex Cuevas. Now, Alex joined our Learn Power BI program, I checked, in June 2022. Now, he was already an established leader, but I've seen him take his career to new heights. He's now a CEO at Gymdesk. And today we're so lucky to have him here to share his lessons on leadership and growth. So we'll be hearing from Alex. And yeah, if you're joining us live or watching a recording, even just drop in a hello. Let us know where you're joining us from. All right, Alex. So hey, how are you? Are you over the jet lag yet? I know you
I
were back from Australia trip.
Yes, I am. It took me a little longer to get used to it. On the way back, on the way over there, I seemed pretty good, but I had a couple days, maybe 3 days before I was fully back to East Coast time zone.
Yeah, yeah. So in the past few years, I've been traveling quite a bit to India, and I don't know. I hear people who get used to it. Man, I haven't gotten used to it. It hits me every time. Yeah. All right, all right. But hey, glad to have you back. Thanks for doing this. So I want to start off with maybe some Power BI data analytics focused things, and then maybe broaden it out a bit. Hear about kind of your journey, your career. So you're a CEO at Gymdesk, and you've been in leadership roles for a long time. But you joined the program, and I know very well from what you've described, the work you do at these companies, that you don't mind at all rolling up your sleeves and kind of getting into Power BI. I'm just curious, for somebody who has been in leadership role for a long time, how do you think having that skill has helped you?
Oh man, I think back to probably 12 years ago, still in leadership. I'd have some ideas about how to run a specific process for either an internal thing like uh, handing off a client from one department to another, a customer thing like an onboarding, customer
Hmm.
or customer journey, and you have the design ideas in your head of what you think is going to work great, and then you wonder why what you designed in your whiteboard when it comes to execution isn't working. And a lot of that has to do with not having a way to measure efficacy of the design of the process that you've built and
Hmm.
have the ability to understand whether or not it's actually working. So when I was pretty frustrated when I designed things like that, and it ends up not materializing the way I had expected. And over time, I actually tapped into something. I was like, whoa, hey, I forgot I was an engineer. You're a science guy. I wasn't a spreadsheet guy, as weird as that may sound to me, especially right now, because I feel like I'm super spreadsheet guy now. But when I got used to the idea of spreadsheets and how they work and all that, I was like, oh, okay, I can use this to design a process and have people put things in there. And with the growth of CRMs and all that, you think about all the data that's available there. Well, wait a minute, I can design things in there and have the team use those systems. I got to extract the data, and then I can do some things with that data to understand whether or not the things that we've designed are actually working.
Yeah.
You put the state of a process or something that you put in a system outside, export it, and I basically became like a super Google Sheet user for a while, because I had to, when you have the board, you're telling them you're doing this initiative or whatever. Well, how are we doing on it? It's like, well, you can't do that. You have to be like, no, this is what's
Yeah.
happening. The number of successful implementations. Here's how many are late. Here's how many have exceptions. Like all that's available to you. And then, but it's so painful to make the changes in a
Mm.
spreadsheet because it's not malleable. It's like only as good as that one formula. And as I went along further in my career, I didn't really know what BI was. And I remember seeing actually one of your videos on I don't know if it was Facebook or YouTube, and I was like, oh, look at this guy with the little bow tie, and he's talking
Yeah.
to the guy, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that might be a way to elevate what I'm doing in this fairly static, data way into some other view. And so I got curious, and I'm like, hey, let me start this off and get into Power BI. And look behind me, I still have my DAX cheat sheet of things that are challenging even for me now. Even though I've used
Mhm.
Power BI for many years, but I know it's a super long answer, but I love the power of BI, and specifically I like Power BI because I know how to use it now after so much stress. And thanks for your videos. Are your trainings were great, by the way. I mean, I'm I love them. I watch them. I can tell you, I'd watch them early in the morning. I'd rewatch episodes here and there just to get used to it. And I was like, wow, I didn't really understand that. Just play it again. So it was a great experience. And at the end of the day, to answer the question, designing a process, seeing how it's working, and then giving you metadata about your organization. It's amazing to do with Power BI. And with that, make decisions on what to do. Where should I invest more resources? Where should I put money into specific lead campaigns or whatever? There's so much you can do once you know what's happening, and that's really what Power BI does for me.
That's beautiful, man. Hey, and we love long answers. Yeah. So thanks for that. Yeah, as you were speaking, of course, the line that came to me was you cannot manage what you do not measure. And of course, we kind of heard that from your story. And what also came to me was that my belief that sometimes people talk to me, it's like, hey, Abhi, how do I become like a Power BI developer? And I'm like, that's for most people, the way I see Power BI is that it's like puts you on steroids, right? It you keep doing the role that you were doing, but it makes you so much better. So you could be in sales, marketing, operations, or leadership, such as you, and you're just gonna be so much better. Um, so yeah, that's great. So let's switch from a personal perspective. So of course you've been in a leadership role, you've kind of seen that things from that level. I'm curious, how should a company think about it? Because what I've seen is that change is hard, and sometimes people resist change even if it's good for them. Power BI could be so beneficial for a lot of companies, but doesn't mean that when I start to work with a client, I don't meet resistance. Sometimes I meet a lot of resistance from all levels. Sometimes from the worker level, who like I don't know, they have some concerns, like oh, I've been doing this in Excel sheet for 20 years, and now this new thing, right? Or sometimes even the leadership. What is the advantage for an organization to make this change, to change the ways, maybe adopt Power BI, get more data driven? And maybe on the flip side, what is the risk of not doing it? What if they say, you know what, this has been working for a while. We have this cluster of sheets and stuff, and yeah, we're gonna make it work.
Um, I have I have done some advising and consulting on this very topic, and I think especially for a successful Power BI implementation, and the way I would see, the way I would define that is, especially as it relates to KPIs, departmental performance within a company. This is my thought because I've seen it work very well this way. If you can centralize the reporting and have that department be responsible to report on all other departments, then it makes it way easier. If you buy into this idea of a centralized, reporting department, then it makes it easy for accountability around goals and scoreboards for each department on what their primary responsibility is, right? So,
Hmm.
for example, if we're talking about marketing, MQLs, SQLs, conversion from an SQL or sales qualified lead into an opportunity, opportunity to a close one, like all those are key. Um, what would you rather have? The marketing person tell you what it is, or would you rather have some objective department that just reports what is happening in marketing with respect to these measures? If you think about the accountability across the organization, If you have an unbiased part of the company that can report in this manner, it just makes it way easier because now
Hmm.
you have a system of truth. You don't have any bickering from, for example, sales claiming, "Hey, I didn't get any SQLs, or they're bad. We rejected half." Like all of that becomes crystal clear if you have one entity that's doing this kind of reporting. And in order for that to work, of course, you have to get the buy-in from the CEO or someone who has authority over other departments, might be a president or a COO or something like that. But if you're able to get buy-off at that level, then the rest of it's easy. It's like, hey, listen,
Mm.
other departments will fall in line because they need their data to understand how they're going to be perceived. So if you have that kind of mechanism in place, then of course, if I'm in sales, I want to know what the dashboard says. So I'm already bought into it. I need to have, a license or whatever to be able to understand. So I'm
Yeah.
talking about that in terms of the KPIs, departmental KPIs, and of course you can do meta around, North Star metrics for any company's particular goals for either yearly or longer term view, and see how we're tracking against that. But yeah, that's kind of how I look at that.
All right, that's great. If you don't mind, give me a glimpse or on on h- how about building that team, that centralized team you're talking about, and uh, when you step into a position, do you look at the maybe the talent that's already there? And sometimes I've seen working with the companies that I work with, you can find that in unexpected places. For one company, they had somebody working in the warehouse who was really good with Excel spreadsheets, and they took to Power BI like fish in water, and yeah, they just took off with it. Or you look at that, and then if you need to, you bring maybe hire somebody or get somebody from outside, and then how do you build, nurture, grow that team?
Yeah, I guess so. The other approach is you go in on the other end, and you tap the spreadsheet users, whether they're Google or Excel, because you can import Google Sheets. That's how I did all of my magic, which by the way has some limitations. But we could talk about those later.
Yeah.
Those individuals that see the power of taking raw data, transforming it, massaging it in the kitchen, and then using your DAX formulas or whatever to display these things. That's a very, very powerful way to get those people interested. And I think if the resulting reports are clean, like the way you suggest people, make them simple and easy to understand, not a lot of stuff in the sheets, so it's clear what each page, kind of like a best practice for doing a PowerPoint slide. You don't want it to be overwhelming with too much data. And you get others involved and interested, like somebody's manager, that can start to build momentum. So yeah, I mean, there's different ways to get in there. I think Microsoft has made it pretty simple for you to play around with Power BI, but just you can download it for free, play with it. Their licensing is, I'm not a big fan of the way they do their licensing. It just feels like overly complicated. But if you just want to play with it on your own, it's fairly simple to do. You know.
Yeah,
Uh,
love that.
but
That's
yeah,
That's great, man. So there's a line that I use, and I certainly heard echoes of that in your response, which is I say the more I got into Power BI, I realized it's about people, right? And on both ends, it's the client you're serving, the directors, whatever, who's going to use the report, the team that's building it. You got to take everybody along. Otherwise, it's not a magic wand. It's not this technology thing that you drop in place. Oh, look, it's magical. That's great. So hey, let's. So I've heard you talk about Gym Desk, but if you could tell us more about Gym Desk. For one, I'm fascinated with this idea of niching down. I certainly think it applies to like an individual's career. I'm always telling people don't build your career on the tech sand dunes. Like, oh, I'm the Power BI guy, or I'm this tech expert. Focus on a specific business niche. And Gymdesk certainly is in a very curious, very interesting niche, has a very interesting starting. So I know I will say that part. It started off with martial arts studio, which has an interesting connection with you because you were a trainer, I think, in high school at a martial arts studio. But of course, since then, it has grown beyond that. Tell us a bit more about Gymdesk, where it is right now, who it serves, who it helps, and maybe some of your plans for what's coming next.
Yeah, yeah. So super enthusiastic and fired up about Gym Desk. I'm relatively new here, so I started in Q4 of this year, and the company was originally founded by a martial artist as well, black belt in jiu-jitsu, which is very hard to do, by the way. One of the hardest to get a black belt in. Bootstrapped it, did an incredible job with the code. It's by far the one of the best UIs that I have seen, certainly in this segment. So it's got a modern design. What it's for, it's designed for martial arts studios originally to do member management, right? So it's a member management system. Basically, think about a CRM that helps you manage your memberships, so collect payments, subscription types, and all that that you want to do for your martial arts gym. Helps you with promotions, black belts, brown belts, etc. White belt to black belt, depending on the art. You can have taekwondo, you can have kempo, jiu-jitsu, judo, you name it. It handles all of those things, along with basic things that you would expect to have in a CRM, like email campaigns, messages, SMS, push notifications to the app for the end users,
Oh,
so they can know what's happening. Importantly, in this segment is scheduling. What time are the classes? Well, what about mixed martial arts classes where you have taekwondo at 7 o'clock, at 8:30 is judo, at 9 o'clock is jujitsu, kids class at this. You can take care of all of that in an electronic fashion. If one of the classes needs to be rescheduled or whatever, you can message anyone who's scheduled for that class. Let them know, hey, this class is canceled. Please come 30 minutes later or whatever. So it gives you that kind of abilities. And one of the things that just blows my mind, and again, tipping my hat here to the founder, is the power that's in the product, and it's as good as the HubSpots, Pardos, Marketos of the world, and we're giving that power to a small gym.
yeah.
And you can take a lead, run it through a sequence where you'll, send an email, welcome, come give us a shot. You can visually design a workflow so that in 2 days you send a text message, and then a day later you can fork based on a condition, and you can, so basically it gives you this, logical conditions on a sequence that you can do for marketing. And so it's extremely powerful, and it's included. And we're like one of the lowest priced options out there. So you put all those things together, so much of this product. It's just amazing how
Mm.
much is there. Super exciting. And was originally called Martial Arts on Rails because we were going after martial arts studios. But we started getting, regular gyms, yoga studios, dance studios, swim, clubs. And as that vertical started to widen, we realized, hey, wait a minute, we're not just for martial arts studios, we are for gyms. So that's where we find ourselves today. And the company recently got an investment earlier this year, which is kind of why I came on board to help with scale. I've done that a lot in my career. The founder wanted to be a product leader, so he moved into a chief product officer role, which is amazing to have him part of the team. It's super knowledgeable, so we're thrilled about that. And where we're going now is, we've already had customers from outside the U.S. We have not localized the product; it's all in English. However, we're planning on coming to market with a fully localized product because of basically from demand. And yeah, we're opening up into other markets globally. Additionally, we're also opening up to other disciplines because there are a lot of nuances. Like CrossFit is different than a regular gym, is different than a martial arts studio with belts. So taking into account wherever you're going to market for that specific type of gym or movement, the more you can optimize for that, the better. So that's kind of the future where we're going.
That's great. And by the way, as we're describing the tool, it's like it takes all this power and gives it and puts it in the hands of a small business. I was reminded very much of another tool which has done that. I think Power BI, right? So, yeah, it's this amazing BI stuff that used to cost millions, and now it's so within reach for small businesses of all sizes. But as you were talking about that martial art instructor, so uh, you have had an interesting history in the kind of the dental world, and of course, you and I were talking earlier. Like I've started to work with dentists. Similarity where a dentist, the clinician, they have the clinical side, but they also have those in the martial art instructor. I mean, they're probably qualified themselves, black belt or something, and now they're teaching others, but they're also running a business. And I think what Gym Desk allows is that it just makes the business part easy so they can focus more on their craft and the teaching and the mentoring. So, yeah, man, brilliant. That love that. Just curious, you have worked in so many different roles in different companies. Has is the transition easy? Like especially maybe from the dental world to now fitness, and you've worked in others as well. I'm sure there is a core set of skills, leadership, management that you carry with you. But how do you see the transition and how do you navigate through that?
Yeah, so I think when I think about transitioning, because I'm a self-proclaimed operator, and that didn't even make sense to me. If you would have said to me coming out of college, "Hey, you're going to become an operator," like, what is that? What are you even talking about? What does that mean? Right? In the world of companies these days, you're a founder, operator, or an investor. Maybe there's more categories for people that are more in the know, but that's kind of the basic things that I think about, right? So if I'm a founder, I go and start something because I have some idea of giving back to the world, and I think that I can add value to people. So I'll take a massive risk. I'll do something, and I get to a place where it's like, okay, this is working. I got product market fit. People are buying. I don't know what to do next because I'm so focused on doing this one special thing. I don't know how to do the other things. Well, that's where I come in. I've done all these other things throughout my career as an operator, and that that foundation helps me look at a specific product and then determine if there's a go-to-market that I can do based on my prior experiential roles that I've done in the past or things that I've experienced. So as you think about, all right, I'm going to go from here to there as an operator, right? Not a founder. I think, wait, is my role going to be different? In other words, am I going to go up and do something else? So we'll call that like a stretch. Hey, it's the first time I'm doing this. Could be like I used to be a director. Now it's my first VP job. Or even I'm going from a manager to a director. As a director, now I'm managing managers. Different game than when you're individual contributor. That's one step. How do I become a better that role? Okay, so there's that. Then there's the next piece. Well, what about the industry and the product? How familiar am I? Those are two different things, right? How familiar am I with the industry? And then what about the product and the technology? So for me at Gym Desk, so I had cut my teeth before as a CEO. So I'm like, okay, I learned from all my mistakes. Wash, not a concern. Then I look at technology. Have I sold anything similar to this before? This idea of a member management system or a CRM for martial arts studios, yoga studios, gyms? Yes, I have. Where have I done that? At the dental place, we sold something very similar. I worked at another company where we were building local online presence for brands, massive brands, like, okay, I'm good there. No big issue on the tech. Very familiar with the idea of actually the last company I was CEO of, we were doing the same thing for home services. So it's like, yeah, so there's so much familiarity there. There are tweaks and differences and nuances, sure, but I'm good there. And then the last piece was, well, who are we selling to? Do I know martial arts, ICP? Yeah, because that's the first job I ever had, where I was in my young, 15-year-old self. Said, yeah, I want to do that, and I chose that. So I'm coming back and serving me, who was walking around, in my beat up truck with the blue box full of schedules and checks, and it was a nightmare to do. And to your point, I just wanted to go teach martial arts. And this part is the part that we call it less admin, because it'd be better if I hadn't have to deal with that box and I just show up and do the thing I want to do, which is teach martial arts. So less admin, more members. That's kind of our mission statement, our tagline to go after, and we're using the product to go after that. So yeah, to round off and go back and summarize, as we try to ascend to another role, think about the space, the technology, and the role itself. And those are the things you got to be ready for, and make sure you prep. I can't tell you how many CEO books I read before I had my first CEO job. And before that, I read a whole COO book, several actually, to how do I become the best of that. And that's like an important thing. Give yourself a good shot.
Yeah. But man, you had me tearing up when you were talking about how you were managing binders and struggling with that. And now you're helping that audience, because most of what I do, it's like something that I've struggled with. I struggled with Power BI. I struggled with creating my independent consulting business when I left my job at Microsoft. And now I'm like, hey, there's one person I can help. That's beautiful, man. So, hey, the next question I wanted to ask you, you already talked about a little bit, but simple question may not be a simple answer. But yeah, what would you say is the secret behind your success?
I used to argue with my mother-in-law about this, because when I was young, my parents would encourage me by saying, "Hey, you're a smart kid. You'll figure it out," or whatever. When I was dealing with something tough, right? Oh, you're a smart kid. And so my wife's mother or my mother-in-law would ask me, "Hey, is it better to tell a kid um, you work really hard or you're really smart when they do something?" And
Hmm.
I'm like, for sure, you tell them they're really smart, see, to build them having that belief. And we argued about it until I read this book that actually proved me totally wrong. Is actually
Hmm.
working hard is the ideal thing, because if you learn how to work hard and you fail, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect any kind of core belief. I'm still going to work hard the next time, even if I fail. On the other hand, if I consider myself, oh, I'm really smart, and I fail, oh, I'm not so smart, my confidence starts to erode, and I could affect my future performance. So even though I was told these things, oh, you're smart, this, that, I'm like, I know I work hard. This is the way I perceive myself. I'm just a machine, and I'm going to bulldoze through whatever it is that I'm trying to do till I get to the finish line. And as soon as I'm done, I'm really big on task management, project management, and all that. And I get the check off something when I'm done, and it gives me my little dopamine hit. I'm like, yes, nice. Let's go on to the next one, right? So being okay with failure, I think, is a big thing. Trying to stay as positive as you can, and then especially in times that are tough, because what people don't necessarily tell you is that as you climb, the stress levels get heavier, and if you don't know how to manage that, it's tough. Especially, I'm a high EQ guy. I guess I call that high empathy in general.
Mhm.
I care about people and all that. So it's not so easy for me to be like, I don't care. I do care, and if you can't control that in an effective, efficient way, it's tough, to have a leadership position, because you have to make tough calls sometimes, and that's just part of the thing that you sign up for. So, yeah, I think being okay with fail is a big one, and
Mhm.
learning as much as you can, and especially if you can develop a mechanism where you fail and the risk is small. So I love testing. That's a big thing for me. I'd love to fail 10 times and just be like this, but I found that one thing that worked, and I can do more of that, and that's the secret. So if you can fail small and quickly, that's a good way to approach.
Love it, love it. Reminded me of an experiment that I read about, a successful experiment. They did it in Chicago schools, I think, where instead of the grade F, they would write "not yet," and I find that so powerful. I was like, yeah, you did something, and they're like, yeah, I don't have it yet, but that opens this door. It's like, yep, that means I can try again. That means I can get better, and that's what I'm hearing from your story as well.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Let me ask you about something else. So last time you were talking, there were two things which uh, yeah, I really noticed, which was the element of community and giving back. And that's been important for me. Every program that I run, especially the Learn Power BI program, community is a big element of that. We have an online community, we do live events where we get together and giving back. We've been running a Power BI scholarship for many years now, and we've had some amazing members through there. And you mentioned kind of a CEO circle where you've had this opportunity to mentor others. Do you mind telling me more about that group? We didn't get a chance to talk more about that.
Yeah. So when I first became a CEO, and by the way, that wasn't too long ago. It was about 2.5 years ago. Um, well, actually, that's not true because I technically was a founder in 2011. I had a chain of plant-based vegan restaurants and markets in Florida, first of its kind.
I
Um,
saw that Miami. It started up, perhaps, right? Yeah.
yeah, so I had that going. So I guess I have been a founder and CEO before that, but in the software or technology space, I would say fairly recently. And when I think about how can I explain this, let's see. Um, when I jumped into this role and I'm thinking, okay, how can I collaborate with others who are feeling the same type of pain as I am and give whatever I can give, and in return, maybe get some nuggets along the way. So I decided to reach out to people who I had met. Luckily, there were a ton of investors in my last company, and through it, I met many different CEOs. And I was wondering, like, I go to a function, there's other CEOs there, and a lot of them are like me, like, hey, I've never done this before. Any chance you want to get together and just chat? And so I kind of like was feeling that out. Enough people are like, yeah, sure. Like, and some of them didn't know me well. They're like, well, what do you charge? Dude, I'm not charging anything. I'm just saying, let's be brothers in arms and do this. So it started off kind of just informal, but it ended. Now I got two of these things going, and they're fairly structured, and people bring in all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, and it's all related. I mean, things from like, hey, how do I build the best customer experience, customer journey given these constraints? What do you think? And then we all share our collective wisdoms on what they could do. But there are other things that are, like, hey, how do you balance hanging out with your 7-year-old kid when you're doing a massive grind? Like, oh, that's important too. So it goes beyond just work stuff. It's like, how do I be the best version of me, given what I have on my shoulders? And so in that spirit of collaboration is how I do this particular groups. But these are CEO groups. That doesn't mean you can't do that if someone's listening to this and like, hey, it's first time director of CS. Go find some buddies that are doing the same thing. Go on LinkedIn or go to these programs. Say, hey, you want to just chat for? And some people won't. Who cares? Just keep going. I mean, at the end of the day, you want people that want this same kind of thing, and they'll come in with that kind of energy. So yeah, that's what that group's about, and it's working.
Man, love it. That's so amazing. And so when we run the Learn Power BI Q&A calls, I often talk about safety. I say, hey, this is a safe group. No questions or dumb questions. And yeah, you can ask anything. Nobody's going to judge you. And I'm thinking of a CEO role. I mean, they say it's lonely at the top because I can only imagine. Like, I mean, you gotta be that perfect leader to your employees, right? And to your investors and to the board. And this gives you an opportunity to be a bit vulnerable. Say, guys, I mean, this is stressful. I can't figure it out. I need help. And I was listening to Simon Sinek the other day, and he said something that really caught my attention. He said the quickest way to build trust is to ask for help, right? And I'm like, whoa, right? I mean, because it lets you be vulnerable. So, what a beautiful group that you talked about. Say that, yeah, yeah. Did you have something else to add?
One more thing. I love my wife, okay? And she's great. But if I give her a piece of information about what's going on at work without the context of having been in the role, it's really hard to empathize. It's just by, oh, I'm sorry that's happened. Like, you know, there's not, you need to have been in the role to understand the implications. Like, okay, if this happens, here are the potential things that could go wrong, and this is where having a group of like-minded individuals in a similar role is helpful, regardless, you know, CEO or director or manager, whatever. Like, you could do this with any role. You can do it with a passion for a specific subject like Power BI, you know,
Yeah.
or consultant. There's all kinds of stuff you can do it with. But I do believe in, you know, in that giving and receiving in return in these types of groups. So, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful. So there's another thing which is close to my heart, and you have mentioned about it too, which is work-life balance. And the sense that I've gotten from you is that as successful as you have been in your career, and as driven as you are, the feeling that I get is there is still some, yeah, some things that are, yeah, actually I don't know how do you see it? I mean, it's not a competition, is it? It's not like, oh, family comes first and that, how so I always talk about the the wall between this career versus personal, and I'm like, it's not like one or the other, but how have you seen it, and how have you try to have a better balance so that you're taking care of yourself, you're there with your family while you're rising in your career?
I guess let me tell you when I didn't do that, because I think the moment I realized what I was doing, it wasn't an instant thing. But you know, in this culture, well, I'll say in the race that I've been on to try to ascend to where I am, working super hard is highly respected. So doing a 14-hour day, 15-hour day, I've done plenty of those, including Saturdays and Sundays. Um, and you just get used to that because you're working towards some finality, ideally, right? Either end of the quarter, end of the year, or you're trying to sell a company or whatever. You're just boom, let's go, you know, let's go. And working hard and not going back to the working hard thing. Um, there's something very satisfying about being that disciplined, right? You're a professional. That's what you do. As you enter into stage where you have a family, it's difficult to shut that off because I can't speak for. Okay, I'll say for a breadwinner, for someone whose responsibility it is. There are families where there are two breadwinners, but when that's on your shoulders, that tends to be, hey, this is number one. My values, number one, provider, right? That's my label and turn my head. So therefore, I have to continue. And then, you know, family comes next, right? Well, how big of a gap is there? And I'll tell you one of the things that was like an eye-opening thing for me. My youngest son, he's now 7. Uh, he was a little guy, probably a year and a half old, had his little swimmers on with a little life jacket. I'm in Miami. He's swimming around in a pool. I'm just me and him, just Papa, you know, and the little boy. He's having the time of his life. He's like splashing around, this or that. And I'm sitting there. I'm seeing him. Obviously, I'm there watching him. And then I realize, oh, 45 minutes are up. Let's go. And I'm like, wait a second. I have no shared joy of this experience. It's almost like I might as well not have even been there because I certainly wasn't present. I was in here working on job related, you know, I got the project going. I'm launching a new center of excellence in India, and I have to have these people in place. The routing of this or that will happen this. And I'm like, whoa, I just missed this opportunity to bond with my son. And that was like, oh, okay. And I remember speaking, you know, that's like the seed of this thing. I spoke to a colleague and I said, hey, I had this experience, this or that, because he was like me grinding. And he says, you know, I've been doing this a lot longer than you at this very company. And my daughter's about to graduate high school. And I've been pretty much absent since like her 7th grade. And I don't know if it's worth it. How much money am I going to get? And the loss. And so then I started thinking to myself, what if I was handed a bag of $20 million? That here's 20 million bucks. The cost is you're not going to hang out with your family, and you're going to be a little bit estranged, and they might have some resentment towards you. Would you take the cash? Everyone has to make their own decision, but when you put it that way, it's simple for me to say, no, I don't want the cash. So as I decide that, I have to figure out, well, how can I meld the two? Because I still want to go after it. Nothing's changed in terms of my ambitions, but how can I not lose my family along the way, right? So I tried to develop a very structured, disciplined way to include my family. And, for what it's worth, we live in a COVID world, post-COVID world. And today, I am working from home. And I've been doing that for the last 5 years. So you could do it if you time it right. And as long as the boundaries are there, because there's nothing more annoying to me is when I'm in a flow state, or, those of us who do DAX, you're so close and you do this or that. And then someone's knocking on the door, hey, can you help me with such and such? Like, no, I'm at work, right? And so having the respect and the bounds so that I can be in a flow state and do my job and all that, but then carving out time to spend quality time with the family. So in short, that's what I do. I wake up super early. So let's start with the night. I try to be in bed like 8:30 and go to sleep like 9:15. That's a good day, because then I wake up at 4.
Yeah.
No one's going to bother me. I get from 4 to like almost 8 o'clock, 4 hours of hard productivity, of doing whatever I need to do. I go home, spend some time with the family, have some breakfast, some coffee, get back to work. And then hopefully I'll take a break. I haven't been great about doing the jogging, but I'll go take care of my health, because that's the other thing you'll see in this world, right? You work real hard and your health goes to poop. Well, it doesn't even mean you gain weight or you haven't worked out. You can be thin and emaciated, and there's all kinds of stuff you think about when you get older, like even osteoporosis. Like, yeah, I got to go do weights to make sure that my bones are strong. I got to do cardio so try to take care of my body as well along the way and come back. You still can grind out 12, 13 hours a day as long as you stay disciplined and don't get distracted by things. So that's kind of how I handle it. It's part of my comprehensive, time management for the day.
That's great, man. Thanks for sharing. You made me tear up again. And I love that pool story. That definitely, kind of hit home. So there's one question that I love asking everybody. So sometimes I call myself the freedompreneur, and that idea does kind of fascinate me. So last thing I want to ask you is, what does freedom mean to you?
What does freedom mean to me? Part of it, I think, when you ask that question, it makes me feel like, oh, does that mean retirement? But then as I think about retirement, I always mispronounce this word, so it's going to be an embarrassing mispronouncement. It's a Japanese word, ikigai. Is that the word? Are you familiar with this?
I've heard of it. Yeah. Essence of something like that, right?
Yeah, I don't even try to spell it. It's a book as well. So ikagi or ikagai. Anyway, the point is,
Yeah.
you never retire in this area of Japan. You're always doing some job that brings value to others. So in my head, I thought, oh, at one point in my life, hey, I can't wait not that I can't wait, but at some point, whatever that age is, 60, 65, I retire, and I hopefully have some money saved away, and I can go sit back at a beach and drink. Like, for how long? For what? Like, what's the point of that? Like, then you're adding no value to anybody. And I'm convinced that either the human body or some mechanism for us only respects when we add value to the species or to others. Or it doesn't have to be humans, but to this planet, right? So I don't think of myself as retiring ever. And when you say freedom, I think for me, freedom would be to have enough money to be able to work in whatever capacity I want to do to add value, whether that's literally becoming a martial arts instructor and that's it, all I do full time because I got plenty of money, or starting some other project that could be altruistic in nature to help others. Could be educational, there's a million other things. You can't do that unless you have enough squirreled away so you can take care of your family, not worry about those things. So I think that's freedom. I guess it would be having enough cash to do whatever you want to do. Doesn't mean retirement though.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, I'm pretty anti-retirement myself. Yeah, I mean, people talking, oh, retire early. I'm like, what are you gonna do? And yeah, I've talked to people who's like, Avi, I'm tired of being retired. I love that line. Like, yeah, it's so yeah, do work on your own term, do work that fulfills you, do work with people that you enjoy working with, and it's not even work anymore. Hey, Alex, thank you so much. I had enjoyed speaking with you earlier in a private conversation. I am just so glad that I got some more time with you to just learn a bit more from you about your journey and all aspects of from how you're managing family and how honest and candid you were about some of the challenges you've had where you did not balance your family and work life. And now, of course, how you're giving back through the CEO mentorship circle and everything else and of course leading your company forward. Alex, thank you so much. Folks, we'll say goodbye to our live audience and yeah, we'll see you next time.